and welcome back to Dukascopy TV. You've joined me for another programme of Hollenbeck Unleashed. I'm joined in the studio today by Dr Frank Hollenbeck, and he's talking income inequalities and its causes. Dr Frank, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello.
Now, first of all, we don't usually hear this topic mentioned a lot in US politics. It's usually European, but many have been saying that this issue is growing and growing in the last few years. Would you agree with this?
Well, we see it in the Occupy Wall Street movement. We also see it more subtly in some recent films. For example, in the Batman movie we had this summer, the villain basically induces the people of Gotham City, which resembles New York City, to go out and loot the wealthy and the powerful. And he basically says, claim what is rightfully yours and wealth will be shared. Okay. And we can see from this graph that for the last 4 decades, we've had a growth in income inequalities. For example, in 1975, the top 1% held about 8% of the economic pie. Now they hold almost 24%. We can see that back in the early 70s, the top 10% earned about 3 times more than the bottom 10%. Now the top 10% earn 5 times more than the bottom 10%. When we look at the theoretical work that's been done on income inequalities, it's mostly from the sociology departments, and they've identified things such as technology, which basically means that we've increased the value of human capital and the value of education. They basically cite the reduced importance of labor unions. They talk about the decline of the real value of the minimum wage, and I've seen everybody's also favorite scapegoat, which is China, blamed for income inequalities. Now, from my perspective, is that we have 2 main causes of income inequalities. The first one I'm going to define as the justified, desirable income inequalities, and the second is the undesirable, unjustified income inequalities. Now, you have to understand, in a capitalist system, we have millions and millions of prices, and we have ever-changing society's demand for those goods and services. And it is through price and profits that we have society's demand being reflected in additional production of goods and services. For example, it was the profit motive that induced Apple to produce the iPad. And once it was determined that it was profitable, it induced other firms to enter and produce this similar products. Okay, and it's basically what Margaret Thatcher said. She said, I prefer having income differentials and have everybody at the top of the ladder than basically have little income differentials and have everybody at the bottom of the ladder. However, what's been happening is that the middle 60%, their situation has been getting worse. Since 1970, their incomes have gone up 40%, but inflation has been much higher than that. For example, between 1971 and 1981, we've had inflation of 125%. So the middle 60%, their real incomes have been declining, and they've actually been going down the ladder. And the reason this is occurring is because of the second cause, the unjustifiable, undesirable income inequalities. And I want to go back to an example I gave before. Why is counterfeiting illegal? The counterfeiter is happy because he gets real goods and services, and the store owner is happy because he gets additional sales. Okay? The reason counterfeiting is illegal is because the counterfeiter gets real goods and services, but he doesn't contribute any real goods and services. In other words, what he's doing is what I call invisible theft. It's what I call theft while you're sleeping, in the sense that the value of the money in your pocket is declining in value. Okay? And the beneficiary of the counterfeiting is the person who receives it first. In other words, if the store owner can turn around and spend the money before prices rise, he will benefit from the counterfeiting. And the same thing is true about legal counterfeiting, which is the central bank printing money. The initial beneficiaries of the printing of money is the governments and the banking sector, because they're first in line. The people who pay for it are the mechanic working at the auto shop or the clerk working at the hospital when they see the value of their money decline because of inflation. Okay? And that's why the banking sector, since 1970, has gone from 4% to over 10%, and why governments, for example, continue hyperinflation, continue printing money, even though they're in a hyperinflation situation. The reason is that they're the first receivers of the money, and therefore they benefit the most from the money.
So just ahead of the US results that are happening today, how much would a tax on the rich actually make? How much difference would it make?
Well, Obama wants to address the results of this income inequality by taxing the rich. What he should do is really address the causes, which is the printing of money by the Federal Reserve System. What we need to do is really end the central banking, okay? And to do that, we also need to end fractional reserve banking. When we do that, then we'll have income inequalities that are due primarily the desirable type that I described instead of the undesirable types. Now, my fear is that we're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, in the sense that we're going to impose policies that reduce all income inequalities, and that's a mistake.
Thank you for coming in, Frank, and sharing your insights with us today.
You're welcome.
That's all from us in the studio, but just click back to the website for more interviews and updates. Take care.